a walking boot for the next 2 weeks. He is expected to be ready to go for week 1. Bucks made offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs the highest paid lineman in NFL history today, 5 years, $88 million guaranteed. Bears and Texans will play the Hall of Fame game tonight. Red Sox off tonight. They open up a series in Texas tomorrow. Former Celtic Gordon Hayward announcing his retirement from the NBA today after 14 seasons in the league. And at the Olympics, U.S. women's basketball team beat Belgium 87-74. Simone Biles took gold in the gymnastics all-around. Suni Lee won the bronze. Headlines are brought to you by Awaken 180. Take strokes off your game by taking pounds off your frame with Awaken 180. How many birdies can you uncover? Awaken180weightloss.com. I'm Matt McCarthy on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update in 30 minutes.
You want to talk sports? We want to talk sports.
Squeeze the chicken and open the mouth.
It's like we were meant for each other.
This is why you need us.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Now,
You have dog crap in your system.
this is the Baseball Hour with Tony Maz.
They did nothing this offseason.
Brought to you by Bigelow Tea, Corona, Gravely Zero-Turn Lawnmowers, Jackson Lumber, Team Impact, Blue Moon Belgian White, and FindMassMoney.gov on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
2-0. Swinging a fly ball left center field, well hit. Raley's back there all the way to the wall. It is off the wall. Here comes the run. Here comes O'Neill. He will score. Raffy delivers, and the Red Sox win it in 10, 3-2.
Well, they needed that one, didn't they? Raffy Devers comes through. The man has been absolutely on fire, left on left. Big hit from Devers. And this team that's really had a tough way of it since the All-Star break. Give the bullpen credit. They came in and cleaned up the seventh. They put up four zeros. They struggled now since the break. And this team gets a real big win, and more importantly, wins the season series against the Seattle team. Stays right where they are because everybody in this playoff chase won today.
And
big
won a series for the first time since before the break. And win it in thrilling fashion here by a final score of 3-2.
So here's the question. What was more fun? That Red Sox win yesterday, one of the biggest wins of the year. Or the Felger and Maz Nantucket remote? That's what I want to know. What the hell was that? What did I just sit here for the last 4 hours through? I'm still stunned. What did I just witness? I look up, they've got panda hats on. What the hell was that, Kevin? I mean, should I be surprised by this? I've done this show enough to know what this show is. I've listened to this show for 15 years. I don't think we've ever done a show like that.
You know, sometimes there's going to be a substitute teacher and you kind of get loose.
Yep.
Was this part of like a Jimmy Stewart wasn't in, so they knew they had the substitute teacher today, so they went nuts?
I think it's the island, man. It's something about that place with Mike. And he had somebody there with him, and he was out at his bar on the island. They wanted to drink on the show. Mike Felger wanted to drink on the show. Mr. Rule Follower, Mr. 8 a.m., give me 17 takes on the email chain. Why are you not giving me more takes? That guy throwing on panda hats and trying to drink on the air?
Can you guys beat that tomorrow? Have more fun on a summer Friday?
I don't know, man. I mean, we generally do, right? You know, Murray comes back. He, takes over the show. We're either going to get one of two things tomorrow, Kevin. We're going to get fun Jim Murray from the island after just spending the last, 24 hours with Mike, hair down Mike Felger. Never thought I'd see the day. We're either going to get that, or we're going to get pissed off at the world, angry because he just traveled and had to drive from Logan to Waltham like it's the worst thing he's ever experienced before. We're going to get one of those two versions of Jim Murray. So tune in tomorrow and find out.
I'll accept either.
I will too. It's McCarthy in for Maz on the Baseball Hour, 617-779-0985. And I will go to the phones early and often tonight, because if you think I'm throwing my fastball 98 on the black after sitting here in the Town Fair Tire Studios for the last 4 hours while those guys got to be on the island, if you think I've got my fastball after that, I don't. I'm not gonna BS you. That looked like fun, and I'm here. Oh, well, we walked to work today. McCarthy, how you doing? I don't know. It's 93 degrees, and I'm in Waltham, Massachusetts. Thanks for checking in. So I'll go to you early and often. It's a big win for the Red Sox yesterday. Big time win. Probably as big a win as you can have on July 31st. Sox have lost just about every close game since the All-Star break. Yesterday was the type of win that they have not been able to secure in the last 2 weeks. And they flipped the switch. That was a right-the-ship kind of win. But it's bigger than that. As we talked about last night and talked about earlier today on the program, the Sox won the season series with the Mariners because of yesterday, which now means they have the tiebreaker over Seattle. There is no more Game 163 in baseball, which is another reason to hate the playoff format. Another reason to hate the fact that they're letting 6 teams in the playoffs every year. I can't stand the format. I don't believe in it. Game 163s were awesome. Instead, we just go to a tiebreaker system. No more Game 163. So if the Red Sox and the Mariners are tied for the final wild card spot, which is absolutely a possibility, I mean, that is no doubt about it on the table. The outcome of yesterday's game means the Red Sox will make the playoffs and Seattle will miss the playoffs. That's as big as you get on July 31st, man. It is. That's how huge that was yesterday. The difference between making the playoffs or missing the playoffs. And to me, that's where the conversation goes at this point. You know, the deadline has passed, and we still need to pick up the pieces from it. We still need to react to it, and we can at 617-779-0985. We'll do a deeper dive on Craig Breslo's approach here at this deadline, you know, now that we've had 48 hours to really process it. But to me, now we turn our attention to the stretch run. So the question for you is simple, and I'll get your thoughts all throughout the program. Did they do enough at the deadline to make the playoffs? We move the story forward now. Do they have enough to make the playoffs? And to me, a win like yesterday should make you believe. Most of the year should make you believe because they've overachieved and, you know, they've proven they're a scrappy ball club who's getting better, and it really is not that hard to make the playoffs in baseball anymore. Again, 6 out of the 15 teams in each league making it. The bar is extremely low. So yes, you should always believe that the Red Sox should make the playoffs. They should never miss the playoffs ever again in this format, to be totally honest. That's neither here nor there. But yesterday, in particular, should make you believe. Because the players that they went out and got at the deadline, or right before it, had a pretty significant impact in that game. Yesterday was a good day for Craig Breslo. Good day for him. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on where you stand on Breslo at this point after his first deadline. Again, 617-779-0985. Game-tying run yesterday scored by Dominic Smith. Couple of big plays defensively for Smith in the game as well. Game-tying RBI, Danny Jansen. Deadline acquisition. Lucas Sims, fresh off being acquired from the Reds, fresh off a flight from wherever the Reds were, Cincinnati or somewhere else, gets in the game yesterday. Biggest moment of the game, gets 2 huge outs in the 7th inning. Made an instant impact on the team and on the game. The Red Sox would not have won that game 2 days ago because they wouldn't have had somebody like Lucas Sims. He would have gone to Greg Weissert or that bum Zach Kelly, who miraculously, I don't know how, got out of that 10th inning. I guess that's neither here nor there. But because you added somebody like Sims, you won that game. You would not have won that game 2 years ago. You wouldn't have won it 2 days ago. Because the general manager has made some smaller moves on the margins that help you win an extra game or 2 here or there, and that could be the difference. That's how big it was yesterday. You might make the playoffs by 1 game. You might make the playoffs by a tiebreaker, or you might miss the playoffs by a tiebreaker or by 1 game or 2. That's why yesterday mattered so much. And Lucas Sims is not going to move the needle for you. Danny Jansen's not going to move the needle for you. James Paxton, not going to move the needle for you. Luis Garcia, it's not going to do that for you. But they might help you win an extra game or 2 like yesterday, and that could be the difference. So it was a good day for Craig Breslo. Good day, undeniably a good day for him. I also think it was a good day for Alex Cora. And I know, you know, there's this attitude in baseball now that the manager doesn't matter. But I believe the manager does. I believe it strongly. I think good managers still make a huge difference in baseball, which is why the Cora extension is one of the best pieces of news you can have as a Red Sox fan. Good managers make a difference. and you saw that yesterday. Service pitching to Devers with first base open in the 10th inning, tying the winning run at second after you fail to score in the top half of the inning is one of the dumbest, most stupid, most ridiculous moves I've seen a big league manager make in some time. It's like, dude, this is obvious. What are we watching? I bet you the analytics probably told him not to. I bet the analytics said, well, you need to get an out anyway. You probably want to walk the guy with one out instead of walking the guy, with nobody on base, because that's going to increase the odds that you scored the game-winning run. BS. None of that matters. Oh, it's lefty on lefty. Devers is the best hitter on the Red Sox by far. Why would you pitch to that guy? Why? Probably because there's an analytic that the front office sent down to the manager, and they don't walk him. And they say, oh, we go lefty, and then we're going to walk the righty. I think it would have been Ref Snyder afterwards. Sorry. You pitch to Rob Ref Snyder. You don't pitch to Rafael Devers. You know it. I know it. Baseball people know it. But the analytics didn't know it yesterday. It's a good thing you have a manager who is not a complete slave to the numbers and not a complete slave to the analytics. Because while Service messed that game up yesterday for the Mariners and maybe cost them a playoff spot in the process if it comes down to a tiebreaker, Cora, for his part, managed the game the way he should have. He played the platoons, used his bullpen as best he could, given the limited resources he does have out there. He went to his best guy. Went to his best guy in the biggest situation, which was Sims in the 7th inning. And then you had to piece it together after that. Winkowski in the 8th, Zach Kelly, that terrifying disaster waiting to happen, Zach Kelly in the 10th, but you don't have a choice at that point. He went to his best guy in the biggest moment. I know it sounds simple, but some managers wouldn't do that. You would also think it sounds simple to walk the opposing team's best hitter with first base open with the winning run at second base in extra innings. You would think that would be automatic, and it wasn't. It was a good day for the Red Sox yesterday. It's a good day for the manager. It was a good day for the general manager. We'll get to your thoughts at 617-779-0985. I do want to look a little bit deeper at some of the moves that Craig Breslo made and why he's different than Hein Bloom. Like, I know a lot of people are underwhelmed in some ways by the deadline because there were not a lot of needle-moving type of deals. I'll explain why what Breslo did was a slap in the face to the way it used to be done around here. It might seem like it's the same old Red Sox. Oh, well, they're not really going all in. I'll explain why it's different. We continue. It's McCarthy in for Maz on the Baseball Hour.
Stay tuned for more of the baseball.
Fortunately, there are plenty of areas through the minor leagues where we feel really good about the talent that we've amassed. But to improve the major league team, we have to make difficult decisions and trade good players, and those decisions are never easy. My guess is we traded a lot of major league talent today, but this is where we are, and I think the team has shown that they deserve to be reinforced.
See, that I just disagree with, that they gave up a lot of future big leaguers. You might be technically true about that. Matthew Lugo might eventually play in big leagues. Maybe Ryan Zefferjohn. Yeah, you've probably never heard of these people before. Maybe Ryan Zefferjohn will throw a couple innings in garbage time here or there. Yeah, he'll technically be a big leaguer, and not to take anything away from the guy, but the whole, we just traded a whole bunch of big leaguers. Good. Thank you very much. My guy, Craig Breslo. Proud Bresbro right here, Matt McCarthy, in for Maz. Just laid waste to 10 Red Sox prospects in the last week. 10. But it's a term we use too loosely. You use too loosely. Oh, look at all these prospects they traded. Luis Garcia, who they acquired the other night, and I would imagine will join the team in Texas tomorrow, desperately needed. He gave up 4 prospects for him. And there were a number of people who were upset at the fact that you gave up 4 prospects for Luis Castillo. Luis Castillo is the old infielder for the Marlins. Luis Garcia, a pitcher from the Angels. None of those guys are impact big leaguers. None of them. So you can say that Craig Breslo gave up 3 prospects in the top 15. 3 of them. 5 prospects in the top 30. That's crazy, right? I mean, oh my God, you can't give up 5 top 30 prospects. In the end, with your top 30 and your top 15 and your top 10, only 3 or 4 of them really matter. Everybody else is just filler. That's the way it is. And maybe some of them will turn into average big leaguers. Below average big leaguers, they'll stick around for a little bit. They'll get a cup of coffee. They'll get a big league pension, and we all want them to, right? That's totally worth trying to make this team better. And you saw yesterday why it's worth trading away middling prospects for just a guy. In the end, Lucas Sims is just a guy. He's a big leaguer, right? He belongs out there. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. Is Danny Jansen anything special? No. He's just a guy. But did he help your team win yesterday? Of course he did. Is Matthew Lugo ever going to help the Boston Red Sox win a meaningful baseball game? The answer is no. Is Nick York ever going to help the Boston Red Sox win a meaningful baseball game? The answer is no. Don't focus on the prospect rankings. Don't focus on the number of prospects you gave up. Ask yourself that question. Is this guy going to help me moving forward? Yes or no? And the answer, almost always, is no. Almost always with these prospects. And I say this as kind of a prospect guy. I know I don't sound like one, but I love following the minor leagues. I subscribe to Baseball America, all of this. But this is the purpose of your minor league system. Almost all of these guys, their only true value to you as a big league operation is to get flipped for a middle reliever, get flipped for a backup catcher, get traded for a guy who gets designated for assignment. Yep, do it. Do it all. You saw yesterday why it's going to make a difference. Made a difference yesterday. I hope it will continue to make a difference. I hope it's the difference between you making and missing the playoffs. I'm not going to sit here tonight and pretend like this deadline was overwhelming for the Red Sox or like some type of overwhelming victory. It wasn't. It was perfectly fine. It was a C+ deadline. I wish they were more aggressive. I wish they approached things like the Red Sox of the past. Don't get me wrong, I feel strongly about that. But they got better. And at no cost at all. So anybody who thinks they gave up something of value, like, come on. Really ask yourself, did they give up anything? Like, sit down and really think about that one. The answer is no. But for years, you heard that you can't give up guys like that. For years, you heard trading for Lucas Sims is bad because you can't give up Ovis Portes, your 29th overall prospect, a guy I've never heard of, and I follow the minor leagues. This is my job, right? I fill in for Maz all summer long. One would think there would at least be some level of baseball knowledge that I would have, although many of you would probably disagree with that. Which can't say I'd necessarily blame you. But part of the job is I check SoxProspects.com. I follow this stuff. It's a part of the job description. I at least try to be informed about it. I had never heard of that guy in my life. That's not ignorance. That's just the way it is, man. Who the hell is this guy? He's a nobody. He's a nobody. And you're telling me that's not worth trading for a guy like Lucas Sims, who helped you win that game yesterday, that might be the difference between you making and missing the playoffs? But for 4 years, you had a general manager who said, no, you can't do that. That's stupid. It's not sustainable. We need to build a sustainable product, and we need to be responsible, and you can't give up the 29th prospect in your system for a rental reliever. How dare you? How dare you suggest that we should improve our team by adding somebody without term? Yeah, add somebody without term. He's a rental. He's a hired gun. Try to make the playoffs. And you know the thing about rentals is they don't cost you anything. Cost you Ovis Portez. Ovis Portez. Would you ever think yesterday, was there a single person out there who said yesterday, Jesus, I really wish we didn't give up Ovis Portez. I didn't need those 2 outs. Ovis Portez is worth 2 outs in July. He is.
Never heard of him.
Correct. That's why he's worth 2 outs in July. And if that's all Lucas Sims gives you, I hope it gives you more. Good. Fine. You won. You won the trade. Your 29th overall prospect, lesser than two important outs in July. And one would hope important outs in in August, September, and October. But for years, you had a general manager who said, you can't do that. Oh, don't do that. No, it's irresponsible of you. How could you? Well, there's a reason why he doesn't have a job anymore, because he wasn't good at it. 617-779-0985. Let's go to Pat in California. You're up first tonight. It's McCarthy in from Az on the Baseball Hour.
Hey, what's up, McCarthy? I know you're talking good about the new GM, but what he's putting out, that the players have to somehow earn it or deserve it for them to sign free agents, is backwards to me. That this is the city of Boston. It's the Boston Red Sox. I mean, from day one, they should put out a team that competes for the number one spot. So he's tricking us with his word, oh, these guys deserve it, they've earned it. If that's going to be the standard, you're always going to be third, fourth, trying to climb to the top.
Yeah, Pat, you're not wrong about that at all. They didn't have a good enough offseason, but I would just say that those issues run deeper than Breslo. And your first look at it, your first look at Breslo having a team that has overachieved and deserves, an investment, he did invest. It was measured, it was cautious, but he didn't do the buy and sell thing. Can you imagine Chaim Bloom at this deadline? And I hear what you're saying, Pat, and listen, you're not wrong about any of it. But can you imagine what this deadline would have looked like if Chaim Bloom were still running the show here? We know what it would have looked like. He probably would have traded Kenley Jansen, but traded for James Paxton. Oh, well, we need to stay in the middle. We don't really need to pick a lane. Buying and selling is totally fine. It's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. And this might be the difference between you getting to October and not getting to October. But you had a previous general manager who didn't care enough about October. So at least I'll give Breslo this. He does kind of want to get there. And he approached this deadline with that in mind. Charles in Connecticut. Hey, Charles.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for taking my call. People forget that, yes, they traded 10, quote, prospects. They also just drafted 10 prospects, and they need a place to put those guys. And at the bottom of these prospects, the 10 guys they just drafted, same thing. 2 or 3 of them are going to make it to the show. So, people forget that it is a game of numbers, and every spring and at the end of every season, a lot of these guys get cut and they're out of baseball permanently.
Yep, exactly right. We use the term prospect too loosely. I'm going to run down the list here. Kevin Majori, you want to do a little exercise with me?
Sure.
I'm going to list the guys the Red Sox got rid of. I'm going to go to SoxProspects.com. I'm not even going to talk about the unranked guys. I don't even have to click on the SP60, the top 60 in the organization, which is really like, man, I love those guys. Ian and Chris and Mike at Sox Prospects, they're the best. I love them. But 60 guys, wow, that is a dedication to the craft. That is a tip your cap moment. I'm going to give you the 5 guys in the top 30 for the Red Sox. I want you to tell me if you had heard of them before they were traded, all right? Let's start with number 12 prospect. Number 12, Nick York.
Yes, I have.
And the reason you had heard about him is he was a first-round draft pick, but more importantly, because the Red Sox and Chaim Bloom and that era of this organization sold you on the idea of Nick York. I talked about this the other night. Back in January, they put Nick York up there at Winter Weekend for FanFest, and they put him up there with Roman Anthony, Kyle Teal, and Marcelo Meyer, who, as we all know, are 3 blue-chip prospects. Like, those are the real prospects in the system. And they put Nick York up there kind of like in a future of the Red Sox conversation. He was never that player. He was never that player. You just traded him for a AAA project, a 23-year-old who's gotten his face kicked in at the big league level. So, like, yes, you know Nick York, but you know Nick York because they wanted you to know Nick York. They wanted to sell you on the idea of Nick York. And in the end, who is Nick York? He's a nobody. He's a AAA guy who got traded essentially for a AAA guy. In a 1-for-1, let's see if I can fix your problem, let's see if I can fix your problem type of deal. So yes, Nick York. There we go. Matthew Lugo, had you heard of him?
Only because Milliken brought him up, but prior to that, never heard of him.
Okay, that's a fair way to describe it. I only know of this guy because Milliken has mentioned him ad nauseum, or has mentioned him in passing. Because every single time in here on Friday with Milliken in the baseball hour with Maz, we do the roundtable. Somehow, some way, Matthew Lugo or Chase Mydroth or Elmer Rodriguez Cruz gets mentioned. And you're like, huh? What? Who is that? All right, there you go. Let's see. Cutter Coffee, number 28 prospect in the system, infielder Cutter Coffee. Had you heard of him?
Never heard of him.
Number 29, Ovis Portes.
Nope.
And I missed this one. Number 15, the 15th ranked prospect in the Red Sox system. Had you ever heard of infielder Edinson Paulino?
No. I feel like I had, but
well,
no.
You probably heard his name 3 days ago when we mentioned it in headlines. Oh, they traded infielder Edinson Paulino for Danny Jansen. Yeah.
No, never heard of him.
Yep. That's the whole point. We just mentioned 5 of the top 30. Kevin Majori, who works in sports talk radio, works with Tyler Milliken every Friday, has conversations with Tyler Milliken before every single one of the Felger and Mads programs. You come in, I see you, you sit down, you have a sit down with Milliken, you talk about life, you talk about baseball, you always ask him about the Red Sox. In all of your conversations with Tyler Milliken, of all people, I just named 5 of the top 30 prospects the Red Sox just traded, and you had heard of essentially one of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's all baseball talk there with Milliken, but you know,
it always happens.
It always circles back to it. He always finds a way to bring up a prospect.
Somehow we get there.
More of a golf guy myself.
I'm well aware of that. It's always a good golf conversation back there with you. But it is the baseball hour, and we talk about these guys, and none of them are anything. Yeah, you didn't do anything exciting. But you got a couple guys who could help you. On the margins. It might be in little moments here or there. It might be a big 2-out stretch for Lucas Sims. Maybe Garcia will get you a big inning this weekend or whatever that is. And you're telling me that isn't worth infielder Edinson Paulino, who you've never heard of and I've never heard of, and trust me, you'll never hear of again. It's obviously worth it. Thank God we have a general manager who finally understands it. 617-779-0985. Got a number of thoughts on the board. Playoff format. The Red Sox trades. Yesterday's game got Garrett Crochet on the board as well. Some of his interesting comments. We get to all of it in the baseball hour. We open it up to you. It's McCarthy and from Maz on the baseball hour.
Get him out here and ruin that streak.
Ground ball, right side, through for a base hit. Smith will round. Here he comes. No throw to the plate, and the Red Sox have tied it. Danny Jansen coming through. And a meaningful moment for the new guy, a 2-2 tie.
Well, that's a good feeling, huh? Kind of joined this team for the first time. You've been in the same division. They know you pretty well. You go 2 for 3 the first night against the Yanks, and you come out here with a big knock to tie it up. Possibly knock him out of here.
Big moment for Danny Jansen. Big moment for the Red Sox, one of the biggest wins of the year, but, I mean, oh my God, we gave up Edinson Paulino for that. Won't you miss Cutter Coffee? You're going to regret that one. No, you can't, sacrifice future wins for present wins. Well, yeah, you can sacrifice future wins all you want when those guys are not going to be a part of future wins. Just keep that in mind. Isn't it refreshing? Isn't it nice? Wasn't it nice to watch that game yesterday and say, wow, you won this game because you added? When was the last time you said that? 2021? Which, of course, you then had to wait to do because Kyle Schwarber was hurt. And, he didn't help you at first base at all, which is what you needed. It's refreshing. It was nice. I enjoyed that. And I'm not gonna sit here and say they did anything overwhelming at this deadline. You've heard me all this week. I was in some ways underwhelmed because I wanted them to be the Red Sox. Why wouldn't you want them to be the Red Sox? Be aggressive, do something that really moves the needle, gets you excited as a baseball fan. But they improved the team. They improved the team, and it paid dividends immediately. You won that game because your general manager decided he wanted to improve the big league team. What a low bar. But here we are. Thank God. Thank God you have a GM who actually gives a bit of a damn. A smidge of a damn about the big league club. That was nice. Maybe you'll make the playoffs as a result. 617-779-0985. Jacob in Gloucester with a thought on the playoff format. Jacob.
Hey, Matt. I was wondering why you prefer the old system, because I like how the weekend series is like 3 full games, and it's still less than half the teams making it, unlike the winter sports. So your thoughts?
Yeah, I do not like the fact that they've expanded to 6 teams, and I think you see it at the All-Star, at the trading deadline here. There aren't a lot of sellers. Like, you're playing Texas this weekend. Texas should be a seller. They would have been a seller under the previous format. But because you've expanded the playoffs, it makes the trading deadline less interesting. You have these teams who try to buy and sell and do a little bit of both, or they stand pat because they don't want to make a move because they still think they're in it. Because in actuality, I mean, technically you are in it. I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks made the playoffs last year as a 6 seed. They made the World Series as a 6 seed, which I suppose you could make the argument is why you should be expanding. But they were an 84-win team. I just think over the course of 162, this is a philosophical thing more than anything. I think over the course of 162, the teams that win more than 84 games should be rewarded by making the playoffs. And 500 teams in baseball, which are, frankly, it's half the league, right? There's not much to separate teams in baseball. That's why it's like that 90 win mark, 88 wins, 90 wins. Like, those are good teams. Teams that win 84 games, 82 games, and that's what we're going to have. Guarantee you 1 year we're going to have a team below 500 that's going to make the playoffs because you've opened it up to too many teams. So I don't like the format in that regards. I also I don't like the fact that you have teams essentially having buys and the postseason has not worked for the best teams in baseball. So I think there are a million reasons, to hate the format. But I think this week the reason to dislike the format is the fact that the trading deadline doesn't have as much activity. If you were a Red Sox fan, shouldn't you have wanted Nate Eovaldi? Of course you should have. But Texas didn't want to trade him because they're 3 out or whatever it is. I'd have to go back and check the math as to what they were. Now, they're, I think, in 9th place in the American League. Red Sox are 7th, Rays are 8th. I'd have to pull up the standings here. Texas is in 9th place. Normally in 9th place, he would have been done, over with. See ya. But they say, oh no, we're not out of it. Right now, Texas
10th place. It looks like
they're in 10th place,
5 games under 500.
Right, and they're not a seller. They're not. Now, the division is coming into play there too, so maybe they're not a perfect example, but just work with me on this here, Kevin. The 10th place team in both leagues used to be a seller at the deadline. It was done. It's over. See you later. 4 teams making the playoffs, even 5. But the trading deadline started to get worse the more you expanded the playoffs. The 10th team, the 11th team, the 9th team should be a seller. Like, you should be done. Your season should be over with. And as a result, guys like Nate Eovaldi should be moving. But now they're not. So Jared Carrabba said this last night, and I couldn't agree more with him. Because you've expanded the playoffs and teams have the, Dan Shaughnessy would call it the illusion of contention, right? You're still in it. Oh, mathematically, we can't go to our fan base and say, oh, we're 4.5 out of a playoff spot. So, we can't sell. We can't do that. Teams like Detroit and teams like Texas right now, well, Detroit ended up moving Flaherty, but he's a rental and they know they're not making it. But teams like Texas are saying, no, we're not good. We're not moving here. We're just going to stand pat. And we're going to hope things work out because we can't send the message to our fan base when we're 4.5 games out of a playoff spot that we're going to sell at the deadline. Well, that just limits the sellers, which then creates even more of a seller's market for those teams who ultimately do suck that badly that it's so obvious that they have to sell. Which means teams like the Red Sox for years have said, well, the market's too high. And I heard this again the other day. Like, oh, wow, you shouldn't have been more aggressive because the market's too high. It's created too much of a seller's market at the deadline. There isn't enough, even value for, teams looking to buy. So teams don't do as much, and there aren't as many teams trying to ship off pieces. Baseball needs to look at it. They need to move the deadline 2 weeks back. The deadline needs to be August 15th at this point. That would create more activity, would create more of a fair market, and that way we don't have to get the excuse, as we did for years, well, what do you want them to do? The market's high. I heard this the other night. Like, oh my God, the market was crazy. It was insane. You just had to give up 4 prospects for Luis Garcia? To which I say, you're overrating all those players, but you're right. 4 bodies should not go for a rental reliever, theoretically, if the market's fair. So, you lost the value on that deal. To which I say, whoop-de-doo. I don't care that you lost the value on the deal. You made your team better. Those guys you traded will never help you. But it's time for baseball to really consider moving back the trading deadline 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. August 15th feels like the right time now. Imagine how would you feel if you had Nate Eovaldi heading into a stretch run? Would you feel better? Would you feel, Kevin, go ahead.
I was saying, I feel a lot better than what I feel like right now.
Yeah. But he didn't go. He didn't get traded. So that's the issue here. It's not, the issue isn't that you didn't get him. The issue is he wasn't available. That's the problem. You got to move the deadline back. Move the deadline back 2 weeks.
Sorry to cut you off.
Please.
One thing I'd like to add is we go back to, it used to be July 31st was, the non-waiver deadline, and August 31st was the waiver deadline.
Yeah.
I know that not much happened, obviously, 2012. The Red Sox and the Dodgers made the big deal, but August 15th is like it's the midway point. You get rid of the deadlines, and maybe Jared said that last night and I was tuned out, but that's the thing, is that's the midway point of, you take the 2 deadlines you used to have and you just you find the middle point and say, that's the new deadline. This is when everything happens.
Yeah, I think you're spot on about that, because there were a few in the last 10 years, 15 years at this point, there were a few really big moves that happened after the deadline. The Adrian Gonzalez one being the most notable, trade with the Dodgers, where they dumped all that salary. But that was a little bit of a different situation because you got those guys through waivers. It was the non-waiver deadline versus the waiver deadline, which was confusing. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought the trade deadline was a month ago. Well, it was, but this guy passed through waivers, and it was too convoluted. The Astros got Justin Verlander in a waiver move, like seconds before midnight, heading into September 1st. That was too confusing. I'm glad they got rid of that system, but Majori's spot on. The date is August 15th because it's a combination of what it used to be. The non-waiver deadline versus the waiver deadline. And 2 weeks from now, you can't do it anymore because, they eliminated that August 31st deadline. But 2 weeks from now, a guy like Nate Eovaldi would be available for you. And then we could legitimately say, why didn't you go out and get him? Why didn't you get much better? That'd be fun. Oh, Eovaldi would have been a perfect fit here. Perfect fit. Speaking of Nate Eovaldi, you're going to see him this weekend. Do a quick series preview. The Rangers coming up. Big series for the Red Sox. They're all big at this point. After a big win yesterday, we roll on. It's McCarthy and for Maz on the Baseball Hour.
This is the baseball. On the Sports Hub.
It was just brought to my attention what awaits us when we get out of here in a few minutes, Kevin. It's still 90 degrees outside. 90. Dog days of August are here. Red Sox get to go to Texas. Thank God. Can you believe they didn't have a dome stadium in Texas? Like an August series in Texas. That's a tough take right there. The old ballpark at Arlington. Imagine playing out there. Day, night, doesn't matter. Seeing all the media folk who are, posting, it's going to be 103 degrees. Yeah, it's not going to be much cooler here. There will be put it this way, there's a bigger temperature difference here today in Waltham compared to Nantucket than there will be between Boston and Dallas, to all the media members. So you want to talk about the real media member who got the short end of the stick? That would be this guy right here. That would be me. Oh boy, well we walked just to the show today. It's a beautiful day here. Hey McCarthy, how you doing? Fine. Sat in traffic on 128 and it's 93 degrees here. Happy to be here. Glad you guys are on the island.
I walked across the street to pick up my lunch at the Panera across the street. That was the dumbest decision I've made all day.
Yeah, not a good one. Not a good one. I wouldn't feel good about that if I were you.
And it was walking there. The
I know.
Panera was good.
I'm sure. Yeah, I go there all the time. I do that walk. That's not a long walk. You take 90 seconds to cross the street, whatever it is. It's not a long walk. Don't like it. Don't like it. Now time for the Between the Limes baseball report, brought to you by Corona. It's good weather for a Corona right now. The official cerveza of Major League Baseball, with what to watch out for during this weekend's games. Enjoy the finer life of sports with Corona. Must be 21 plus. Relax responsibly. Corona Extra Beer, imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois. Did we figure out if I can drink on the air in the employee handbook?
I don't think we ever got to the bottom of that. There was a lot of maybe, no, probably not, but I don't think we ever got a decision.
Oh, but it's Nantucket, so we can get away with it. I don't think I could put it this way. Like, if they brought in the Corona for me right now, that would be a bad look for me in the studio. I would agree it is slightly less of a bad look if you're doing it on a remote on the island. But right now, if I were cracking a Corona in the studio, that would probably result in my termination. I don't think my key card would work tomorrow. So I think we'll...
And there'd be like nobody on air at 2 o'clock if Jim couldn't get here.
You're right. No, actually, they wouldn't get rid of me.
They'd wait until 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's when the key card stops working. But no, we need somebody dumb enough to show up on a random Friday in the summer. We're going to send everybody else to Nantucket, but we need somebody back in studio. McCarthy will do that. You're right. No, actually, they're never getting rid of me in that sense. Never. What to watch for this weekend? The bullpen. Bullpen additions. You saw it again yesterday. Lucas Sims, critical moment in that game. Massive. 7th inning, needed 2 outs. Put a guy on base. He walked him, but he got you 2 outs. Luis Garcia, I'm curious to see him too. Milliken was doing some stats that I'll ask him about tomorrow because I'm kind of interested in this stuff. I know it's nerdy, but I guess Sims kind of changed up his pitch mix yesterday. Milliken, I saw him tweeting about that, so that is the Andrew Bailey effect, which I do kind of buy into. I'm into the whole Andrew Bailey thing. I do that. I like it. I believe in him as a pitching coach. I think, the results have clearly been there with guys like Houck and Cutter Crawford. I never saw this coming, so I do buy into that. Sims is a big league pitcher, but can you get more out of him? Is he a guy that Bailey's identified? It's kind of like the goalie Bob stuff in hockey, in your sport there, Kevin. I do buy in to the fact that the Red Sox have a good pitching coach, and I anticipate that they should get more out of these guys than you would get on paper. And that's what I think happened with Sims yesterday, and Milliken can explain more tomorrow. They made some tweaks there. It was a good inning for him. I want to see what Luis Garcia looks like. And I want to see what Kenley Jansen looks like, because this is a concern. This is an issue. Whole situation was weird. You were watching the game, Kevin. Jansen came in from the bullpen with 2 outs to go in the 8th inning, or in the top of the 9th. There was a delay in the game, and Jansen came in from the bullpen. As Milliken was saying earlier, and I think it's a good point, he was concerned about his ability to jog in from the bullpen because I think his back's flaring up. And then the trainer came out, and he gutted through the inning, but he has not been the same. He has not been the same since the All-Star break. He did not look good in Los Angeles. He blew the save against the Yankees, blew the save against the Dodgers, couldn't pitch in Colorado because of the AFib thing, which, by the way, I'm not diminishing it. That's a legitimate medical issue, and I can totally understand why he wasn't pitching there. But Jansen is somebody to really look out for, so really watch. feels to me like he might start breaking down. Doesn't mean you have to go away from him or should go away from him. You need to get as much out of him as you possibly can, particularly with Martin and Jansen still sidelined. But if Jansen has something going on, Martin and Slayton still sidelined. If Jansen has something going on with that back, the addition of Sims and Garcia could be even more important. That's the thing to really watch for this weekend. I know you're probably going to see Eovaldi in the series. I think he's one of the probables, so we'll keep an eye out on that. But the thing to watch for is the bullpen, Jansen's health, and the hopefully, immediate impact of Sims and Garcia. They needed to do it. They needed to add, and it helped you win a game yesterday. Joe Murray's coming up next. All 4 hours. He's excited. He's back there. Are you singing the song? Yeah, he's dancing. Are you singing the songs of the summer? More songs of the summer tonight, Joe? Joe looks like he's in a very good mood.
Joe was probably on the island. He probably got off the island and came here. He got the good mood going down there.
He looks like he's dressed like he's from the island. Joe's always got those Hawaiian shirts going on. Joe looks like he's ready for a good time.
We need a Joe Murray show live. I know he loves the beach.
Dude.
We need a Joe Murray show live from the beach.
Can you imagine what that would be like? You thought Felger and Maz got fun and weird today, putting on panda hats and talking about the end of the world, and Felger trying to drink on air, wondering if he can. Can you imagine Joe Murray on the beach in Dennis, which I know is where he loves to go?
Skaz said he's got to be at North Shore Beach.
No, Joe loves the Cape. I know he's Mr. North Shore now, even though he's not, because he's from Hyde Park, so you're not North Shore. But Joe's Mr. Cape Cod, Mr. Dennis, loves him some Dennisport. We need to make that happen. Get that sold. Sales guy, Myers, get on it. We need a Joe Murray remote from the Beachcomber. That's the spot right there. Joe says he's in.
Skaz says the bonfire with Joe Murray.
That's a show right there. That's a show.
We'll get Skaz down there. We'll find somebody to fill in for him, and he'll go down and do the show with Joe out at the bonfire.
I'll just be back here just in case the line goes down. I know my role. I do. I'll be back here tomorrow. We'll see if Murray makes it back from the island. Talk to you then. See ya.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, the only place to hear the local call of the game is right here.